Chapter 13, Lesson 3. Main Ideas. Geography. The ideas of the Italian Renaissance spread to Northern Europe. Culture. The Northern Renaissance produced its share of significant art, literature, and learning. Science and technology. The invention of the printing press helped to spread Renaissance ideas throughout Europe. The Renaissance spreads. Build on what you know. What do you know about William Shakespeare? You probably think of him as a writer from long ago. Did you know that he wrote the love story Romeo and Juliet? Or that a number of his works have been remade as modern movies that you may have seen? In this lesson, you will learn more about William Shakespeare and other notable artists from the Northern Renaissance. The Renaissance moves north. Essential question: what factors helped the Renaissance spread north? During the late 1400s, Renaissance ideas began to spread north from Italy to countries such as France, Germany, Spain, and England. This was due in large part to cultural interaction, the growth of towns, and support from the region's powerful rulers. Growth of cities. The growth of cities across northern Europe aided the spread of the Renaissance. In 1453, the destructive Hundred Years' War between England and France ended. As a result, life changed for many people. Trade expanded and cities grew rapidly. Renaissance ideas made their way to these cities and influenced large numbers of people. The growth of cities also helped to create a wealthy merchant class. Like the merchants in Italy, these wealthy business people were eager to sponsor artists and writers. Role of monarchs. The governments of Northern Europe also stepped forward to support the arts. Italy was not a unified country, but a collection of powerful and independent cities. However, England and France were unified countries ruled by powerful monarchs. Many of these rulers took an interest in the arts. They viewed artistic achievement as a source of pride for their country. As a result, they purchased paintings and provided financial support to many artists and writers. Cultural interaction. The Italian artists who led the Renaissance eventually interacted with painters and writers throughout the rest of Europe. In the late 1400s, a war broke out between kingdoms in Italy. As the fighting dragged on, many Italian artists fled to the safety of Northern Europe. There they shared their new styles and techniques. In addition, artists from Northern Europe traveled to Italy and learned all they could. They then brought Renaissance ideas back to their hometowns. Northern artists and writers. Essential question: how did the Northern and Italian Renaissance differ? The Northern Renaissance produced a second wave of talented painters, writers, and scholars. They made significant advances in the arts and learning. The Northern Renaissance and the Italian Renaissance differed in several ways. For one thing, Northern European scholars did not study the classics as much as Italian scholars did. In addition, Northern artists created works that were much more detailed in their presentation of everyday life. German and Flemish painters. One figure who stood out for his realistic and detailed works was the German artist Albrecht Dürer. He is considered by many to be the greatest German Renaissance artist. Besides paintings, Dürer created many woodcuts. A woodcut is a painted image produced from a wood carving. One of the most famous of his woodcuts is the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It portrays death, war, plague, and famine. Four forces that the Bible states will appear at the end of the world. John van Eyck and Peter Bruegel the Elder were two great Flemish painters. The term Flemish describes a people from a region of northwest Europe called Flanders, which is now Belgium. Van Eyck often worked for wealthy patrons. His paintings contain minute details and bright colors. Many of these details have deeper meanings. For example, in one of his paintings, a single high window in a room represents a single God. Some of his more famous paintings are Annunciation and Giovanni Arfini and his Bible. The paintings of Peter Bruegel the Elder often show everyday scenes such as peasants dancing or children playing. Like other artists during the Northern Renaissance, Bruegel painted detailed works. Northern writers. Talented writers also helped to shape the Northern Renaissance. The most famous of these Northern writers was William Shakespeare. He was born in 1564 in Stratford, England. During the late 1580s, he moved to London, where he pursued a career in theater. Shakespeare soon became one of the most popular playwrights in England. He wrote comedies, tragedies, and history plays. His best-known works include A Midsummer Night's Dream, Romeo and Juliet, and Hamlet. The works of Shakespeare show that he had a strong understanding of human nature. Because of this, his plays still speak to people today. His works continue to be performed throughout the world. The Elizabethan Age. Shakespeare wrote during a time in England known as the Elizabethan Age. The period was named after Queen Elizabeth I. She ruled from 1558 to 1603. Elizabeth promoted the Renaissance spirit in England. She was well educated and spoke several languages. She also wrote poetry. In addition, she showed great support for artists and writers. Advances in science and technology. Essential question: what Renaissance advances occurred outside the arts? The advances made during both the Italian and Northern Renaissance occurred not just in the arts. Scholars and thinkers of this age made breakthroughs in a variety of fields, including mathematics, science, and technology. Math and science. Renaissance scholars left their mark on a number of academic fields. In mathematics, for example, thinkers advanced the study of algebra by introducing the use of letters in algebraic equations. Meanwhile, Renaissance scientists developed new theories about the universe. They also developed a greater understanding of the minerals and metals that made up Earth's surface. Scholars also made advances in the science-related areas of anatomy, the study of the human body, and cartography or map making. As they learned more about the world around them, Europeans created more accurate maps. They also increased their study of anatomy in order to learn more about the human body. Scientists, for example, first dissected a human body for educational purposes in 1315. The printing press. Renaissance Europe saw many technological advances as well. The most significant technological advancement was the invention of the printing press. This invention built on earlier Chinese technology known as woodblock printing. Under this technique, a printer carved a word or letter on a wooden block. The printer then rolled ink on the block and used it to print on paper. During the mid-1400s, a German named Johann Gutenberg used movable type to invent a printing press. The printing press was a machine that pressed paper against a full tray of inked movable type. Gutenberg used his machine to print a complete version of the Bible in 1455. The book became known as the Gutenberg Bible. The printing press. A person could copy a single book in about 5 months. A printing press could produce 500 books in the same amount of time. The impact of printing. The printing press had a huge impact on European society. Before, printers had to spend many months handwriting copies of books. Now they could produce hundreds of copies quickly. As a result, books became cheap enough for many people to buy. The availability of so many books encouraged more people to learn how to read. It also helped spread new ideas more quickly than ever. In addition, the printing press encouraged more authors to write in the vernacular, or their native language. Before this, most authors wrote mainly in Latin, the language of ancient Rome and the well-educated. Now, many more people wanted to read. As a result, authors wrote to readers in their everyday language. Printers across Europe produced works such as the Bible in the vernacular. This allowed people to interpret the Bible for themselves and draw their own conclusions about religious teachings. The Renaissance spirit. The printing press, more than anything else, fueled the spread of Renaissance ideas. As you recall, these ideas were based on the humanist principles that people should think for themselves and work to achieve their potential. These were the ideas that fueled so many advances in art and thought during this period. These ideas also led people to take a more critical look at the institutions around them, including the church. In Chapter 14, you will read how Renaissance ideas helped to spark a major religious reform movement throughout Europe. Lesson summary. The growth of cities and the support of monarchs contributed to the spread of Renaissance ideas. The Northern Renaissance produced many great artists, writers, and scholars. The printing and the use of the vernacular helped to spread Renaissance ideas and increase learning. Why it matters now. Printing is used everywhere in today's world, including in books, websites, and newspapers.